before you tonight for your consideration is an amendment to the camping ordinance.
So I'm going to vote no.
I will be voting in favor of this amendment to the code tonight.
For me to leave with my emotions and my ideals, I would say, and vote against this tonight because that's what my emotions and my ideals want to do.
Well, this is one where generally I'm very much in favor of freedoms for everybody, but I also think that it's okay to have some rules.
All those in favor of moving to approve item 4F, please signify by saying aye.
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 All right. And any of those not in favor of moving item 4F, please signify by saying nay.
Nay.
I understand there is interest in receiving more clarification for item 4F, which is approval of an ordinance amending Olympia Municipal Code Chapter 12.74, prohibiting camping and constructing camp facilities on city property, city parklets, and to include city right-of-way. I'd like to invite Olympia Police Chief Rich Allen, and then I also see Darian Lightfoot, who is the City of Olympia's Director of Homeless Services, here to discuss the ordinance. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. For the record, Rich Allen, Police Chief. So before you tonight for your consideration is an amendment to the camping ordinance. Our current camping ordinance, there are some gaps in there, specifically regarding city right-of-ways. For example, if there is a grassy area between a sidewalk and a street, that area is not covered under the current ordinance. So the amended ordinance has added some language that covers that area, and it would make camping prohibited in those grass areas that I just described. I think it's important to mention that just because a proposal to change the ordinance is in front of you doesn't mean it's going to change our approach. We will treat incidents in those grassy areas just like we have all over through the city and like we always have. If there's some kind of public safety risk, we'll deal with it immediately. Other than that, we'll collaborate with Darian's team, Housing and Homeless Response, and we will engage the people that are there and try and point them to services. So that was just an important part or important point that I wanted to make. And we always start with compassion and move to accountability as needed. And that's certainly not going to change. So that's it in a nutshell. It adds a definition to right-of-ways, and it makes it illegal to camp in those right-of-ways. So I am happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from the dais? Okay, I see Councilmember Parsley, followed by Councilmember Gilman.
So can you remind me why we are expanding this ordinance? Is there a need? Is there seen public safety issues? Just so I understand, and I do appreciate your approach and the approach we've been displaying in the last 4 or 5 years with our when we move a camp. I do totally appreciate that, but I just trying to wrap my head around the need for the change.
We are seeing an increased activity level in the areas where we expanded the sit and lie ordinance. We expanded that really at the request of some service organizations and neighborhoods to address the behavior that's occurring in those areas. So the sit and lie ordinance was expanded, but then as we looked at trying to deal with the behavior that was happening, the current ordinance just wasn't enough to give us the tools we need to deal with that. And the reality is some people need a nudge in the right direction. An arrest for camping or violation of the camping ordinance is very rare. Doesn't happen a lot. But having a tool that we can use to persuade people to work with Darian and her team to connect them to resources, to get them into a more humane condition, humane environment. That's really where the benefit comes from. Specifically for the right-of-ways, there is a public safety concern, and it's a concern for their safety. Some of these grassy areas are very close to the roadway, and some of them are major thoroughfares, and it's just dangerous. Cars lose control, cars speed, and it's a dangerous place for them to be.
Thank you. Councilmember Gilman?
Each time that we talk about limiting where people can be downtown, it's really a difficult conversation, a difficult decision. But I think about how we set some rules around our initial tiny house community, that it was making it really difficult for folks to get along, as there were camps that were developing along the fence line just outside. And similarly, with the interfaith shelter, we wanted to have everybody be able to be where they want to be, but also in order to hang on to the services that we've stood up, I think it's reasonable to manage some of the friction with neighbors. And I'm going to not vague book this one and say that a lot of this conversation has been about Rosie's Place and the East Side neighborhood, and it's been going on since about 2014. Regular negotiations and having tents on the grassy median around that facility is creating a lot of pressure and a lot of challenges for the facility that's there to serve youth and young adults. So this is one where generally I'm very much in favor of freedoms for everybody, but I also think that it's okay to have some rules that say this is a place where you can sleep and this is not safe, and it creates a lot of difficulty for the organization that's trying to provide services right next to you. I shouldn't say this, but I can't help myself tonight. The part about it being dangerous more dangerous for folks than to sleep on that grassy median feels a little bit like the argument of how dangerous it is that an oak tree might fall over on me as I'm driving on Old Highway 99. That I understand it's more dangerous than staying inside of a building or something, but I don't know if it's more dangerous than riding your bicycle up that shoulder or walking along with a friend and having a conversation. So I'm challenged by having that be the lead of our coverage, but I know it's more difficult to talk about saying, here's how we're going to balance places that we're going to say it's not okay to stay the night. So thanks for listening.
Thank you, Councilmember Gilman. I saw Mayor Payne and then followed by Councilmember Vanderpool.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I will be voting in favor of this amendment to the code tonight because in addition to the concerns around public safety for our homeless residents in our community, we have had residents repeatedly come into council chambers and ask us to do something different, to balance compassion and accountability. And each time we look those people in the eye when they come into our chambers and we tell them that we are going to do something different and take an approach that tries to balance compassion and accountability. And I understand that sometimes that's not always going to feel like we're not always going to have the warm and fuzzies and feel the greatest about all the various aspects of a decision like this and what it means. But I do know that we do need to take a different approach. And as I heard earlier from Councilmember Gilman, that, it makes sense that obviously we would say that there are some spaces where it is not okay to camp or sleep for practical reasons. And that's something that I think we should be taking into consideration tonight as we vote. And lastly, I'll just say that enforcement also tends to be somewhat of an issue from time to time on, for us when it comes to some of these issues. And so the community will certainly expect that we will enforce this amendment to the code if we in fact adopt it. And so I will just say that I appreciate the community members and the organizations that have come forward with this concern, and I hope that we do in fact do something different tonight. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Payne. Councilmember Vanderpool?
Yeah, this is not an easy vote, obviously. I mean, it's very difficult. And to help with that decision, would it be possible to have Darian speak on what this means for our homeless services and how this fits in that picture?
Yeah,
Yes, thank you.
absolutely. Thank you. Oh, okay. Oh, go ahead, Darian.
Hello. Yes, I just did want to add a couple points of clarification as you all discuss. Councilmember Partially, I know you're asking about specific sites, and yes, as Councilmember Gilman said, the strip along Rosie's Place through organizations in the neighborhood, that does bring in a lot of requests, and it did really ignite this along with the area around the veterinary clinic, which I know you've reached out to us too. And these are some hot spots that we're trying to figure out how to engage in partnership with OPD. And those two areas really did rise to the top. And a point for your discussion too is our team has been tasked to manage our current encampments and to not allow more encampments to grow. That is also why you saw tension a few weeks ago around the RV ordinance, because we have been tasked with managing the current liveaboards and not letting another ensign, not letting another large encampment grow. And so this is what we are going to do with that lead, is that we have to find a way to address people, to get people into services, to have time to connect, but then not allow an encampment to grow. And so with the combination that you see with the sit-lie, for example, even in front of Rosie's Place, people can be on that grassy area all day. All day. That's not what this is banning. And then someone could set up a tent on the sidewalk and sleep there all night. And then someone could be in the grassy area all day. And then they could set up a tent and be in the sidewalk all night. And so I do just want to show you, we are moving people around and it often feels arbitrary. And as you heard from Meg tonight, it causes more harm, it causes displacement, it causes impact. But that's what we're trying to do by not allowing more encampments to grow. It kind of forces the city to have more touch points, to then not allow expansion through RV ordinance and through sites like this. So yeah, it's challenging to move forward, but we have to find one way, if that's what we're being asked to do, is to manage our current encampments and not allow more to grow. I hope that helps with your thoughts.
Thank you, Darian. I know Councilmember Partially has something. Any other comments, questions for? Okay. Go ahead, Councilmember Partially, and then followed by Councilmember Cooper.
As my council mates have said, this is a tough one because as Meg reminded us tonight, where we came from, and we had no options for folks that were without shelter. We had none. And we started there. And in those moments, it was right to allow more than we do now. But we made a contract with our community when we passed our one community plan, which is to make sure we work on faithfully and continually the compassionate needs of those without shelter, and that we provide access to shelter and access to housing and helping them right-size their lives. And as long as we are continually doing that, our community has backed us. They passed a home fund. They tax themselves to help us do this. But I think we also are obligated to a degree to help with the balance on this. And as long as we are doing the kind of work we are when we need to move camps and we're being asked for this. As long as that's the approach to what we're doing, I will support it because I want our communities help in the future. I don't want our community to rise up in arms against us. I want us to become even more of the example of what you do with homelessness. And that's going to be for a long time in the future, unfortunately, and we're going to need their help. And we made that contract when we passed the One Community Plan.
Thank you. Councilmember Cooper?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. It's not very often that I pull something for separate action. I'm challenged, and I was at the same friend I was talking about that I referenced earlier. I was talking to, and they said, "Well, who's the new Anna Schlecht?" Because they wanted to like get to the bottom of this, right? And I said, "Well, we have Darian and this whole department, and we're housing hundreds of people. We have changed the policy perspective of the city to bring it in alignment with our values. And I'm super proud of that. Proud of all of the great things we've done. We've given you an impossible mandate as well, right? You know, keep the RVs at this number and keep the encampments from growing. I'm one of the people that said that. So I want to make sure I acknowledge that before I keep going down this conversation. But as I'm watching cities react to the overturning of Boise versus Martin, I'm watching cities in Grace Harbor. I'm watching cities debate what their outright camping ban is. So, you know, a small town in Grace Harbor, they're going to bump 10 to 50 people, depending on what count you believe. And are they going to go to Aberdeen or are they going to go to Olympia? And I know that I've voted yes on expansions of this because I've rolled with it and I've seen change and I've seen us, and this is not about the enforcement that I would see. I don't expect the police to really be doing much different. So it's not really about that either. But as I think about what I'm proud of, it's not this. And so I agree with everything you've all said. And this vote would be against my values tonight. And so I'm going to vote no. But like the chief, I don't really think anything's going to change anyway. So I think that we're doing a good job and that we're meeting people where they are with the tools we have in our toolbox. And I wish that there was a different way. And I don't know if I would be in the same place if it wasn't going to go, to be honest. You know, if this wasn't going to pass, I would be thinking harder about it. But I think I would still vote no. So thanks for all that you're doing, everyone. And thanks for continuing to keep this conversation growing and rolling in the right direction.
Thank you. If Councilmember Vanderpool, followed by me, Mayor Pro Tem 1.
I mean, it is an incredibly hard vote. I've said that before, but I think that what we do locally, we're maximizing it, right? We're doing everything we can. I mean, until the state and federal government does more and helps us out more, we're going to keep running into limitations. I mean, really, we are doing a ton of work in Olympia, and we, pressure our partners and this and that. But like, until we get more support and it's considered more of an emergency by the state and by the federal government, we're going to keep being here. And so, and this has been a harder vote than I imagined. So thank you everyone for your comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Vanderpool. You put that quite eloquently. My thoughts on this one exactly is I'm really proud of the work that Olympia has done during my time on council and even before that, and the direction that we're going. I think we do lead with our values, and we are trying to strike a better balance. And I don't think that we've always done that in both directions. We have given Darian's team we trust them to do kind of an impossible task. I mean, just even on its face, housing and homeless response, that's so intense all the time, every day, being in it with people, seeing folks and trying to figure out new solutions, because as we know, everyone is in a different situation and everyone needs something a little bit different. And I think that task for your team would be even more impossible if, for me to lead with my emotions and my ideals, I would say, and vote against this tonight, because that's what my emotions and my ideals want to do. And I also know that there are real people doing the work that I do in a different way, but not the way that your team does it. And I think it would be unfair to give your team the tasks that we have, and for me to vote against this tonight when it's something that the people that are doing the work are asking for. So just wanted to share where I'm coming from. Any other comments or questions on this one? Okay, we have Councilmember Madrone.
Yeah, I don't have too much to add. I just want to say I really value the conversation that we're having and that we're thinking really deeply and critically about this. I want to thank Meg for her words earlier. There's as we've said, I think each of us has said, this is a tough one. And I agree with Mayor Pro Tem Nguyen. It's unfair to give staff an impossible task and not give them the tools that they're asking for to do that task. Because ultimately they're following the direction that we have given them. But I just really respect the voices around this issue. I respect the debate. I respect the difference in opinion. And I know that we're going to continue to all work together to solve this crisis on the ground in our community. So thanks for being here. Thanks for your words. And thanks to the rest of council for digging in on this.
Thank you. I'll just kind of do a last call on this one. I know we have a poll for separate action, but any other comments or questions or no? All right. Thank you all. Exactly. Thank you all for digging in. So with that, I will ask for approval of the consent calendar items 4A through items 4E.
So moved.
All right, we have a motion and a second to adopt the consent. Again, items 4A through items 4E or item 4E. All those in favor of adopting the consent calendar through item 4E, please signify by saying aye.
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 All right. The consent calendar through item 4E is adopted. With that, we have item 4F.
Second.
Any discussion? All right. So all those in favor of moving to approve item 4F, please signify by saying aye.
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 All right. And any of those not in favor of moving item 4F, please signify by saying nay.
Nay.
All right. Motion passes 4-2. Thank you. Oh, excuse me, 5-2. It's really a group effort. 5-2. Thank you. I know Councilmember Cooper, I don't know if you all know, if you haven't gotten a chance to see him or work with him, Councilmember Cooper is parliamentary procedures to me. He always is watching it, and I almost got away with it. But okay, so passes 5-2. Thanks everyone.
Hope you liked this video. Thanks for watching.